What is really happening inside that tiny rubber band? This isn't just a physics classroom trick. What you're witnessing is a strange manifestation of a natural supermaterial, a delicate structure, so intricate that modern science still hasn't managed to replicate it fully. And what's more alarming is this: the world is facing the risk of losing this material altogether. Natural rubber derived from the latex of the hevea tree is not something you can just 3D print or recycle easily. It is the product of a complex biological chain, dependent on rainforests, climate, and human hands. And this material shows up in nearly every corner of modern civilization, from medicine, transport, aviation, to robotics and spacecraft. But the global supply chain for natural rubber is under severe threat, and very few people notice. Like a slow stubborn bomb, you don't see it until it's gone. In this video, we will unpack what makes natural rubber unique, why can't we replace it with artificial substitutes, and what happens if the world runs out of rubber. Get ready. This isn't simply a story about rubber bands, it's a global crisis quietly approaching. If you grab a rubber band and pull it hard, you will feel resistance. Then when you let go, it snaps back to its original shape. You've just witnessed what scientists call entropic elasticity, elasticity that comes from molecular disorder rather than rigid structure. Inside natural rubber, you don't see neat crystals like in metal or ceramic. Instead, you see a chaotic molecular network, like raw spaghetti strands long, flexible polymer chains that can straighten out and coil back up millions of times without snapping. When you pull the band, those polymer chains align, reducing their entanglement. When you release it, they revert to the tangled state, generating elastic force. And crucially, they achieve this without cracking, permanent deformation, or brittleness like hard plastics. Why not just use synthetic rubber? Fair question. Synthetic rubbers like styrene butadiene, neoprene, silicone have been around since the 20th century. But none of them can perfectly mimic the properties of natural rubber. Synthetic rubber is usually more brittle at low temperatures. It wears out faster, less elastic, under high mechanical stress, and most importantly, it doesn't recover as well after large deformation. So in many industries, natural rubber remains the gold standard, from high-performance tires, surgical gloves, rubber seals in submarines, vibration dampers in aircraft, to cushioning in robotics. A history stained with pain and injustice. In the early 20th century, rubber was the cause behind mass atrocities in Africa and South America. Take the case of the Congo under King Leopold II of Belgium, where millions were killed, tortured, or forced into labor to harvest rubber latex. In the Amazon, indigenous communities were massacred in the rubber boom. Rubber was the black gold of the 19th century, a strategic material coveted like oil and diamonds. Today, even with modern industry, most natural rubber still comes from small plantations in Southeast Asia, where millions of farmers depend on hevea trees. But these trees are disease-prone, climate-sensitive, and take years before yield begins. The supply chain is exceedingly fragile. Imagine, you're driving in a car, riding a bus, or flying in an airplane. Almost every vehicle you use, from cars, trucks, trains to planes, runs on components made of rubber. Not just tires. Natural rubber is used in shock absorbers, fuel hoses, oil seals, vibration joints, gaskets, and noise-dampening components. And for reasons we've already explored, only natural rubber can withstand the extreme conditions those applications demand. Supply concentration. A strategic weakness. Around 70% of global natural rubber supply comes from only 3 countries: Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam. And most of the output comes from smallholder farms, not industrial plantations. Rubber trees need 5.7 years to mature, and they are highly sensitive to weather, disease, and market fluctuations. A long rainy season, a new pathogen, or a political crisis, any of those could ricochet through the global supply chain. Here's a scary scenario: a widespread rubber disease. Currently, a leaf blight fungus called Pestilodiopsis is quietly spreading across rubber plantations in Southeast Asia. If it spreads rapidly, similar to fungal epidemics that wiped out certain banana crops, we could lose a significant portion of natural rubber supply within 5-10 years. No substitute exists that can scale overnight. Domino effects. If natural rubber goes away, surgical gloves will become scarce. Healthcare will suffer. Automotive, aviation, defense industries grind to a halt. Food transport, global trade, everyday logistics slow. Prices skyrocket, millions lose jobs. Smaller rubber farmers collapse. Social instability ensues. It's not just shortage, it's a global crisis. You might survive a week without your smartphone. But if trucks, airplanes, medical tools all stop working because of one small but irreplaceable material, the ripple effect is profound. Not a nuclear bomb, not an asteroid, but a disaster born from the rainforests. Historical lessons. But have we learned? During World War II, rubber was strategic gold. The US lost access to plantations in Asia. Panic set in. Research and rationing skyrocketed. Synthetic rubber development exploded. Today, decades later, the dependence remains, and the vulnerability persists. Climate threat nobody's watching. As Earth warms, rubber trees suffer. Rain patterns shift. Disease spreads faster. Trees die. Yields fall. Costs rise. Demand keeps soaring. What can you and I do? Start with awareness. Understand that natural rubber is not guaranteed. Support innovation. New materials, disease-resistant trees, sustainable farming. Treat natural rubber as the precious resource it island, because if we lose it, we might not just bend our world, we could break it.